Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today on this critical debate of access to drugs for rare diseases. What we just saw in the video before was really heart-wrenching. I think no parent should have this, should go through this, that they should lose their children in front of them. So I think that is why this debate becomes all the more critical, that we ensure how we can make sure that we get access to patients suffering from these life-saving from these diseases. Next. So my presentation here will basically be an overview of some things that our distinguished panelists will be discussing as we go forward in the discussions. And so I will basically be giving an overview of the global burden of rare diseases and the paradox of progress that we are seeing in terms of innovation and accessibility. We also look at where access, why is there a lag in the access, the critical reasons that are there, and also what is needed to ensure that we get access to these life-saving medicines. Global burden of rare diseases, we all know that these kids are patients who are suffering from rare diseases are definitely rare, but they are not less. So we see that more than 300 million people are currently suffering from rare diseases. And there are almost 7,000 diseases that are classified under, more than 7,000 that are classified under the category of rare diseases. And what is appalling is that 50% of these are kids who are suffering. And almost like 30% of these kids do not make it to their fifth birthday. So this is the condition that is there in terms of rare diseases. And we all always talk about innovations that are happening in terms of what is in rare diseases. But what we fail to look at is that 95% of the diseases for rare disease, 95% of the diseases in the category of this do not have any FDA approved treatment at the moment. And wherever the treatment is, it is dismal or it's absolutely low. The availability of the drugs is worst. So if we look at the paradox of progress, so this is actually tells us about a dilemma or maybe a tension that actually exists in terms of innovation and affordability. So whenever we talk about the remarkable things that have been done in terms of innovations happening in the field of rare diseases. So if you look at the strides that have been made in the terms of approval, we see that every year of the new FDA approvals that happen globally, 50% of more than 50% of these are in the areas of rare diseases. So for example, from 2014 to 2023, almost 250 drugs have been approved for rare diseases with a slew of incentives, the voucher programs, and the I think the abbreviated clinical trial pathways that we have for rare diseases have definitely pushed this to the forefront. But if we look at the approvals, more than 54%, more than 50% of the drugs that are currently being approved are for rare diseases. In 2022, we had almost 54%. In 23, we had like almost 52%. And now in 2024, same, we have 51% of the drugs, new drugs. These are new drugs approvals that are for rare diseases. So, but at the same time, we also see that most of the drugs that are coming with an exorbitant price. For example, in 2023, we had the first gene therapy treatments coming for sickle cell, and they were priced at 3.1 and 2.2 million. So the last year we saw one of the breakthrough drugs that came from Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and it was priced at 3.2 million. So the last year we also had another drug, and which is like 4.5 billion. So if you talk about the prices of these drugs, it is leave aside developing countries or the countries which do not have a proper healthcare system to reimburse. It is even difficult for the countries that are developed countries to put them under the reimbursement programs. That is why I think the uptake for these drugs is really, really low. If we look at the profit margins, yes, of course, the company's profit margins are soaring to a very, very high level. So if we see the operating profits of the companies which are in the area of rare diseases, it's like a whooping 500%. But at the same time, you look at the gross profit margins for these drugs, it's more than 80%. And I think Jamie will go ahead and tell you also how these companies are making the profits and what kind of a money is actually going into going into how these how these companies are making the benefit. But if you look at how the revenue of these drugs is, in 2032, we expect the rare diseases market to touch 500 billion. So this is a huge amount for any area to have. And we always talk about in fact, they've surpassed the non-orphan drugs also, because if you look at the price comparison, the drugs for rare diseases are priced at almost 6 times of what the non-orphan drugs are priced at. And I think these are statistics which are quite obsolete. And if you look at the recent ones, I think it's almost treble to like 6 times of what it is. So the numbers are huge if we talk about the profits that the companies are making. But do we think that these profits are actually getting translated into access? So alongside the profits that they are making, there is a bigger issue that is surrounding this area, is that of affordability and accessibility. So I'll give you 2 slides, which will probably tell you a very telling picture of what the situation is in terms of rare diseases. So like in the video that we saw, one of the CF mothers, Heinchen, she said that the estimated price of the drug for cystic fibrosis is $300,000. If I talk from Indian perspective, a country which is a generic pharmacy of the world, the access to this drug is zero. Not even a single patient in India has been able to access Trikafta at the moment. And what is the cost? This is the price at which the company is selling the drug. And there have been estimates where the cost of production for this drug is just $5,000. So this is the kind of profit that the pharmaceutical companies are at the moment making by selling drugs for rare diseases. But what is very appallable is that there is no access, zero access. And the companies are so I think, so profit minded that they've not even managed to enter or register that drug in India. Leave aside making the drug accessible, this drug is not even registered in India. Similarly is the situation with another drug for spinal muscular atrophy. So if you look at this, the cost of this drug per year per patient is approximately $80,000 in India. And if you look at the price that an Indian generic manufacturer is producing this drug and selling it in the market, is just $2,000. So this is the price per patient per year. So this is the kind of difference that is there. The company that manufactures the drug, Roche, still has a patient access program, but India is supposedly this SMA capital of the world. So for every 38 persons, one is in SMA. So this puts the number of SMA patients in India, children born with SMA, 5,000 per year, according to the index that we put forward. Now, for a country where each year 5,000 children are born with SMA, the access program has less than 60 patients. Overall in India, they run an access program where the number of patients is just 60. So this is the kind of asymmetry that we see in terms of drugs and diseases and accessibility for rare diseases. Now, if we look at the factors that are responsible for why there is an access or why there is a lag in the access, I think the major barriers that are there are in terms of premier pricing, because countries like India or developing countries have a very fractured healthcare system where the healthcare expenditure for such countries is very low. The premium pricing, even there is no reimbursement program. So out of the pocket expenditure is humongous, and therefore none of the patients are able to, most of the patients are not able to afford the drugs for these. Now, apart from these, we also know there is a severe lack of diagnostics in a lot of developing countries. Almost in cases of rare diseases, 40% of the population is actually not diagnosed. There is a misdiagnosis. So I was working with a patient for sickle cell disease, and this patient, when she was born, since then she had started having problems with sickle cell, but there was no one who could diagnose the problem, and she was in and out of hospital again and again. And ultimately, it was only after 18 years that a senior doctor came and told her, why don't you get yourself diagnosed for a disease called sickle cell? And it was then that she got to know at the age of 18 years that there is a problem, there is a problem with her blood cells. And that is when, so understand the cruelty of a situation where a patient has, for 18 years of her life, she had to suffer thinking that she has some problem, fever coming, going to the hospital, blood transfusions going on, but nobody could diagnose that it was a sickle cell syndrome. Similarly, I think there are a lot of policy gaps that exist, and I think these policy gaps. Yeah. So one of the major barriers in terms of this is the intellectual property barriers. So if I talk about, we just talked about the drug for cystic fibrosis, and I just told you that the manufacturer of the drug, Vertex, has not registered the drug in India. So because of that, there no patients have access to that drug in India, and India has a huge population of cystic fibrosis kids who are suffering. So with zero access, the company has flagrantly filed more than 20 patents to protect the invention. So it is not coming to register the drug in India, but it has the audacity to file a number of patents. And all these protect not only the original drugs that are a part of Trikafta, they are still today, they are going, one of their drugs, the first one in the list is about to expire in June this year. So a lot of people who require that particular drug suffering from cystic fibrosis may able to get it because it's a small molecule and Indian generics will be able to produce that drug. But the company has gone ahead and filed a secondary patent on it in the form of a deuterated compound, which just has a little bit of more efficacy as compared to the originator molecule. So the patients are so worried about it that we keep on getting calls from it. Will our kids be able to get the generic version of this drug? So this is the kind of a situation how the multinational pharmaceuticals are actually gaming the patent system. They're not allowing, not registering the drugs, not selling the drugs themselves. And when patients approach them to ask for an access program, they clearly deny, saying that we are not interested in an access program or even registering our drugs in the country. So these are the kind of challenges that are faced by patients who are suffering from rare diseases. Now, and I think this is where our policy gaps exist in terms of treatment for rare diseases, is that there is a complete lack of local or generic production, because I think it is quite intertwined with overcoming the patent barriers, because as long as the patent protection for these drugs is there, you may not be able to incite local productions, because all countries under TRIPS may not be able to bring the patents. I think there's also a very big gap in terms of how countries are viewing drugs for rare diseases. For example, in a country like India, they have a provision under the Patents Act where it says that if the drug is not available in the country or the population is not able to get it, the government can issue a compulsory license. But till date, for none of the rare diseases, any compulsory license has been issued so far. And we see that a number of patients are suffering. So what the patients have done is that they've now gone to court, they're knocking the doors to make the drugs available to them. And I think the frustration, the anger that we are seeing on the social media, the posts that are coming out, I think is all because of the policy gaps that we are seeing in terms of how the government is enacting in terms of rare diseases. I think another disadvantage is our inability to get these drugs registered under the WHO EML. I think this time also, every time there's a discussion saying that the low prevalence of disease should not be a reason to exclude these medicines from the treatment of model list. But time and again, we've faltered. Risdiplam last time was not included in the list. Still this time there was a submission. Similarly for Trikafta, the submissions are there, but we always fall short of making them to the WHO EML. And I think there is why there is also a policy gap of how we can make these drugs available to them. I think the last thing that we move on is what more is needed. I think what is needed is, I think, probably a little bit of I think understanding from the countries in terms of how we can move forward. For example, India, at least in one situation, has done something really good, that we do not allow patents for CAR T therapy. So CAR T therapy, that is why I think for globally where the drug is priced at 400,000 US dollars, or globally where it is priced at 600,000 US dollars, we have actually brought down the price to just 40,000 US dollars. So that is the kind of policy initiatives that happen if you take it at a government level. I think that is where we also need to push for things like compulsory licensing, because if we do not allow patents for CAR T therapies and bring down the cost, this is where local manufacturing and local production also helps, because India kind of in the with the help of public funding, government funding, have been able to manage and bring down the prices to just 40,000. And CAR T is one of the most innovative therapies that are like. Similarly, we do not allow patents on CRISPR therapies. So I think these are some of the steps that are needed by countries globally. And I think I'll just like to one of the things that is there is that I was just talking about how the patients have started knocking the doors of the courts to get access for them. So this is one of the breakthrough cases that we got in case of spinal muscular atrophy, where this was a patent infringement suit that actually happened between the innovator company and the generic manufacturer. But in this case, two patients actually intervened, saying that if you do not allow the generic manufacturer to come and sell it at a lower price, this is a violation of a fundamental right to health, which is guaranteed to us by the Indian Constitution. So in this case, the court gave the judgment that though the patent, of course, is there, but the balance is in favor of public interest. Because when we know that a life-saving medicine is available at a cheaper price and it is still not available to the population, then in those cases, the balance of favor is definitely in favor of the patients. So I think this was one of the breakthrough judgments that came forward in terms of drugs for spinal muscular atrophy. And I'd like to close the presentation with this slide. She is the face of the case that actually happened in India, the last case that I just talked about. She's an unflinching warrior. She's bedridden, but she's not shied away from going to and knocking to the court. She's an avid painter, and this painting is by her. I think this talks, she is not able to lift her hand and she's not able to move. But this is the kind of painting that she's actually put forward. So I think you can understand how a picture speaks 1,000 words. Her loneliness and everything, and this is what she says. No one, each day I fight my life to create, to be heard. And she says she wants to paint, she wants to live. And she's the one who's actually gone to court, and she's fighting the case till Supreme Court to get access to these drugs. And she was one of the petitioners in the last case that I mentioned. And she's like, she has been the face of this movement, and seeing her a lot of other patient groups in a lot of other rare disease areas, including cystic fibrosis, Duchenne muscular atrophy, all of them have come forward and are knocking the doors of the court and the government to now make the drugs available. So I close my presentation with this, and I think it's for the panelists now to discuss going forward. Thank you.